Welcome to our winter wonderland. We filmed installing the FireBurner, Afterburner, FireBooty, and here we are, several inches later.
And it is mid-October.
Yeah. All right, here goes nothing. Hopefully we'll have a beautiful night for flying, but generally, I don't know what to think. So we'll see. Camera crew, you want to stand there, and then I'll stand to your right.
Okay.
No lapel mics because we're out of time, guys. Here we go. Kickoff flaps dialed in. Oh yes, gorgeous. Gear going up. Out of the afterburner here for a second. Okay, we're gonna go around to those trees and go overhead. Right here. Okay. So we're gonna come down kind of along the runway. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Afterburner on. Oh, that's cool. Sorry, porpoising to give you guys a good view. Take off flaps here. Out of the flaps. We're flying on a 4,000 milliamp 6S. Kick that afterburner on for you. Okay, here we go. Just gonna glide it in. A little bit of throttle. Coming in fairly close here. Right overhead. Oh, that is awesome. You can definitely see the afterburner. That's so cool. Okay, here we go. Loving it. I feel like the F-16 is a little bit more visible, surprisingly. Okay, let's try a full flaps pass. We'll be probably all the way out of the throttle though. Until now. That is so cool. Out of the flaps, getting some speed built up. This thing defies gravity when you're flying it slow. It's very strange how slow you can go. Gooniac, good job. Oh yeah, that's gorgeous. Guys, you know how hard it is to time a nighttime flight in the middle of winter when you're working full time, 60 plus hours a week? It's hard.
Yep.
So you take the opportunities you get. Man, those red and green lights are really good too.
Yeah.
We're a minute and 12 from our 3.5.
So the problem with this?
That's so cool.
You're gonna have to have one of these for every jet you have now.
That's one thought. Here we go, I'm going under. You ready, hon?
Yep.
Straight up, baby. That's how you treat a pack nicely. Let it get flying again. Give her some throttle just for good measure and take her back. All right, cool. We're gonna try a landing here.
Okay.
Kickoff flaps dialed in. Gear coming down, they take about 6.5 hours. Full landing flaps in. Pushing the nose down, getting her the throttle hard. Nope, oh, that's so cool. Carrier landing aborted. Should we try to land the other way? That was a pretty good approach. There's my warning. I should probably be a little bit more generous with my economics here. Throttle cuts on, or not throttle cut, full flaps, landing gear coming. Go way too hot. Going in. Nice economical flight here. Gear coming down, full landing flaps. Forcing the nose down. Woo! Well, let's see, throttle cuts on. That was not a good landing.
Nope.
Looks like we broke that missile.
And the nose. Oh, do I have to go get your plane?
No, I'll get it. I don't think it broke.
It didn't?
Okay, it broke.
Yeah.
All right, let's see how this did. That was a little bit forced. Okay.
A little
Ooh, probably not a good time to close the gear. There's a little bit of stuff in the gear right there. Did you notice?
I noticed a bit.
Flaps are good. Elevator's good. Ailerons are good. Steerable nose gear is good. I think the only casualty is just the nose, because I kind of dug the nose in. I want to lay it down and just taxi it a bit.
Okay.
And then that missile, where did the missile end?
I don't know. We're going to look in the snow for both.
Yeah?
I think.
Okay, so let's try taxiing. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's taxiing just fine. I think it was just a little bit aggressive on the landing there.
Knocked some of that snow off there too.
Yeah, that's kind of the key. That's what I was taxiing.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll pause it and see if we can find that stuff real quick.
Okay.
Okay, well, evidently it wanted to dive its tips in because it broke 2 of them off. This one here, that's going to be super easy. This one here, it's going to match its brother now.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's going to be totally fine. And to be honest with you, what's this here? Oh,
That's just snow. More snow.
What I was going to say is this whole nose cone comes off. So if you guys crash this plane, how easy is that to replace?
Yeah, right.
I mean, honestly, the missile pods have always kind of been a point of contention for me. I could take the missile pods off right now and fly it, but I'm not going to do that because you got what you're getting right now, which is the FireBooty from Gooniac. Thank you, Gooniac. That was awesome.
Yep.
Very interesting stuff. Looks good. As you can see, it's not exactly bright out here, but that thing was plenty bright to see. You know, it works well. I didn't feel like there was a performance loss. The problem you guys can't see that I can feel is there's tailwind on that landing approach, and those power lines disappear at this time of night.
Yeah.
And so to make an approach, I just said, I'm going to end up in that tree or I'm going to end up clipping the power lines. And I said, I just don't want to risk it. So I ended up doing a with the wind landing, which is just not a good way to do it. And of course I was out of time because I was too in love with the way that Afterburner looked. So do you want to give the people at home one more final look at the Afterburner?
Well, yeah, if you got enough power, you think?
I think I do. All right, you ready?
Yep.
That is so cool. Did you see it spray out the water?
I felt it,
Oh, you're welcome.
and it's really cold out here.
Oh yeah. Well, anyway, guys, there you have it. More coming just like this, except without the crash, and plus beautiful landings.
Maybe.
Come back for more. All right, guys, so you just watched the flight, and we obviously had a really awesome landing. So we're gonna show you the repairs, but we're gonna jump right to the installation of the Afterburner, the FireBooty from Gooniac, because that's why we're doing this video. And so if you stay tuned at the very end, we'll go ahead and show you the repairs that should go pretty smooth. So stay tuned. YouTube, Brian Phillips here. We are going to put an Afterburner in this F-18, which is gonna be awesome. You can thank Gooniac for this. Gooniac makes these FireBooties. That's what he calls them. I'm just gonna go through this process again. I know you guys have already seen it on the F-16 Thunderbirds. If you haven't seen it, check the playlists. The packaging is always really good. He does a good job of putting these packages together. And I don't know if he wants to show the whole thing, but I'll show that. So there's that. I'm not sure exactly. I'm assuming he probably wants to show it, but sorry, I don't want to shortchange you, Ray. Okay, inside the bag, there's a little kit. Looks like a 3D printed adapter, as was true from the last time. He used what appears to be Medderm tape, which, Ray, why are you using such expensive tape? Why don't you use cheaper, crappier tape? But anyway, so here's the LED, which is super cool to look at up close. There's a lot of individual LEDs on there. Everything's all gooped together. Okay, so this has got a little slit in it, so it's allowed to slide on and off of the back of the EDF housing or the motor. I can't remember. Either way, we'll see. This is this is actually a brushed ESC, I believe is what that is. And then, of course, he's got all the solder joints with heat shrink. And this goes onto the balance lead of the battery, which energizes this. But of course, without having a servo connection, you're not going to really see what happens. Then also included in the package are a bunch more Again, don't want to show any more information than he meant to put on screen. Got some zip ties in the kit. Looks like it comes with one big black one and 4 small white ones. So we'll just set those to the side, and we've got those if we need them. I don't know if I'm gonna need them or not. I don't think I used them last time. So as you know, on the F-18, we have a ton of room inside of here to get in our batteries, and you can see I've marked in here 5,000 milliamp and 7,000 milliamp hour. I have an arrow that dictates or depicts for us which direction we want the wires to run off of them. We since, on our second thoughts video with this F-18, we flew it on 3,200, 4,000, and I think 5,000. And I prefer the 4,000 just because this happens to be a 50C pack, which is really good. The first time I ever puffed this pack, and when I say puffed it, I mean just a small amount of puffing, was after my last flight with this plane. So I don't know if maybe it's just pushing a little bit too far. I kind of doubt it. This is right up the alley of this plane. But as you can see, it's nice and flattened back out, which is really good. It was toasty at the end of that flight. Obviously, we're going to be using the DX18, but I have something new coming in the transmitter arena. I think we're probably going to showcase that when we unbox our next plug and fly, which is coming right around the corner. So inside of here, you can see where all the wires are. You can see where the main battery lead is. So we're going to jump right into the setup. So obviously, we have to install this thing somehow on the EDF module, but we have to get the wires back and forth. So just take note of that passage back there. That's where you're going to be probably feeding your wires through. Not sure why there's this little chunk of foam, but it's come off of something. So we're going to use this Robart stand that actually Tom sent it to us. That's right. And then we'll probably be using the other tool that Tom sent us. Tom is like our tool guy. He looked on us with pity because I refused to get the tools I needed. And so he's like, no, Brian, I'm buying them for you. And he sent them. So thank you, Tom. I think of you every time I do this because this plane stand is a significant improvement over my wife's blankets. So that being said,
No more holes in my stuff.
also, we've got these wonderful, is that Wea? I'm not sure. I think it's German.
It's probably just we or something.
We or I don't know, whatever. It is what it is. We like them. They're good.
To provide your own crystal vase to hold them in, though.
That's right. You have to provide your
Not
own
included.
plant holder. I think it's a flower holder.
Since nobody in this house ever gets flowers, it was up for grabs.
It is interesting how that works. Nobody wants them anyway, right?
No, never.
Who wants flowers? They just
All
wilt.
women.
Oh, wow. There's that. So we're basically going to take off this access hatch. This is how you get to the EDF module on the Horizon planes. This is an e-flite plane, which is made under the Horizon brand. Actually, e-flite's the brand. Horizon is the company, the mothership. They have been doing a really good job of late making access to the EDF modules. Okay, so I'm going to have a hard time getting that, so I'm going to try to figure out the best way to do this. I'm probably going to have to sit so I can kind of get my body in here, right? This wing is sort of in my face. So if you guys haven't already figured it out, we're going to be doing a flight video, but it looks like it's getting a little bit too dark. This last week was just crazy. We had so much going on. Work was crazy, and that kept me from getting to a lot of the projects I'd hoped to accomplish this week. So I think I need a flat screwdriver. I just can't quite make the angle with these things. I don't want to yank it out and damage the finish all around. So I'm just going to try to use this flat screwdriver to kind of ride in here, right on the edge. See what I'm doing, guys? I'm just trying to get this lifted. Once I'm lifted a little bit, Now it's no biggie. Now it's no biggie. See, there's just nowhere to really get in there and pry. So I'm going in here. There we go. Now it's released. I think the paint was just stuck a little teeny bit.
Probably.
So you've got this piece of foam with the plastic that's what actually holds it down. So I can just set that aside. Pay special attention to what direction everything goes. You won't be able to probably fit it in there backward. Okay, so this is the EDF, the electric ducted fan. Okay. There's 4 screws that hold that in.
I might have to reposition. Because last time I think I sat on the counter. Because you're going to be working.
Are you still running?
Yeah.
Do you want to pause and get repositioned?
Yeah, if you can wait a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I don't know for sure if we actually have to take that off. Basically, the gist of it is you put this onto the end of the motor, and then this glows, and of course you can see it from out the back of the plane, okay? And I might be able to get that on there without taking the EDF out or the module out. Not feeling real promising though. I don't think so. Plus then I think the wire kind of needs to go under it to get up to the front. So we're just gonna break this free. Okay, so we're just undoing these one at a time. There's 4 of them. Fairly simple stuff. These don't come with any instructions, so I think part of Ray sending these to me for review is that he's hoping that I'll do a video to show you guys kind of how to put them in, which probably eliminates a lot of the frustration he has of trying to explain the same thing over and over again. I think that they look really cool. I mean, it's surprising because it seems like kind of a not big issue. You know, like, hey, does it really make that big of an impact? I don't know. I thought it was pretty awesome on the F-16 because the F-16 didn't even have LEDs. And this thing does have LEDs, but just seeing that Afterburner just makes it so much more compelling. It's surprising. It's a small detail, but it's a big detail. I mean, it really does matter. I'm gonna actually, I'm trying to think if I ran into a problem with this on the last one. It should be pretty obvious which way it goes, but I'm just gonna mark B for bottom, okay? And it probably only fits in there one way, but honestly, I'm not sure. Okay, so just lifting this up. I feel like I'm yanking on something right now, but I can't see what it is. It's a disconcerting feeling. Oh, just a little glue. No big deal, right? Okay guys, now you can see that is beautiful. Look how much pressure there is just from that magnet.
Wow.
See all that? See, this is the glue that was stuck right there.
Yep.
See, like I can't even really manipulate this very well. So I'm gonna have to unhook the EDF wires in order to get them back out this hole. So that I remember now. Gosh, I'm gonna have to move these control surfaces. I'm just gonna idle them up. Probably easier to just take the whole wing off, to be honest. Because it's just awkward. I could just jank it out of there, but I don't want to damage everything. This tape that Horizon uses is fiber reinforced tape. I've always found it to be a real pain in the neck to undo, but that's kind of the point, I think, is it's just difficult to get undone. We're gonna pause it just because I'm gonna be blocking all this with my hands. I'm just undoing the tape right now and we'll come right back.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so we got the middle one undone. We were having a very difficult time getting this tape undone. It's got actually nothing to do with the Afterburner except for procedure. Okay, so now that I have that out, I can take this tape off. See, it's just a really nasty angle. And that would be the type of thing, like if you knew for sure you're gonna do this, you might just get it and be easier to put in when you're installing the wings and the full functioning stabilators, which are these things. It's like a stabilizer and an elevator kind of wrapped into one word. You see what happened to this one? The heat shrink got pulled forward. So I can just spin this and kind of walk it back. just so that it gets that little heat shrink around the edge of this. The electronic speed controls always have these weird motor winding wires. So it's just a different type of wire. So they're real stiff. In this case, it's definitely not like a braided cable. It's real hard to bend. But when I go to plug this back in, I don't want to be fighting that. So I'll probably use a pair of pliers, or strippers in this case have a little better bite for me. I want to grab this tip that's solid, not the part that's back here that's going to compress. That spins free. So I'm just grabbing a hold of that, and then I can pull real hard on this heat shrink, kind of slide it back. You can actually heat up the heat shrink too. That'd be one other way of doing it. When you heat the heat shrink, it becomes soft again, but it also does shrink. There's a certain amount of compression that happens at that time too. So again, this isn't a Gooniac thing. This is just an e-flite thing. Okay, so you see that part now, it's still allowed to spin free and got just a little bit of residue on there. So I'm gonna wipe that off. Okay, so we're good now. So we have the fan exposed and ready to go. So mine was black to red. So black on this to red on the airplane, and red on this to black. So I mean, basically it's just the opposite. Mm-hmm. And then of course the yellow goes to yellow. So that's just the way mine was. Sometimes they're not that way. Just depends on the way the windings turned out. Okay.
But you can just mark it if it's different. You just wrote on yours with a Sharpie.
Yeah, I just wrote on it with a Sharpie. So now in this case, these wires are going to pass through this little thing here. That's why you have that weird opening. Okay. And then this thing just slides in onto the back of there. Okay. Just like that. And you can kind of just give it a wiggle. Now, I think you're technically supposed to be able to run a zip tie around this to hold this tight. But I don't even know if that's necessary, and I just as soon save that one last thing. While we were off camera, I undid the 2 pieces of tape that was holding this. And this just needs to be passed all the way up to the front. And this actually looks like it's going to be a lot, maybe not a lot, but a little bit easier than on the F-16. So we're going to turn the plane so that you guys can get a view down the length of it. So as you can see, there's this little cover of plywood here and here. And that cover of plywood, underneath that is an ESC, and that's where our signal wires are going to chase back. That should get us out the front. So at this point, I have to figure out what type of tools we're going to use. I think last time, didn't we use skewers?
I think so.
So we'll do that again.
Okay.
Okay, so I've got these are little bamboo skewers. They work nicely for repairs when you have a significant control surface break. Toothpicks work better for little repairs, but these are much more robust and these are really cheap. They're like maybe $1 or $2 for a pack of like 50. Yep. And you know, I think we're only gonna need probably 2 of them. I'm just kind of gauging from the distance from the opening to where the canopy is going to be reachable. So I'm going to take actually the sharp edges and I'm going to put those together. I think that's going to be the ticket here because then I can keep them sized appropriately. So in this case, I'll just use a little bit of tape to actually tape those 2 surfaces together. This is just regular tape, nothing fancy about it. Just kind of spin that, make sure I've got enough purchase on either side of the sticks. And then I'm probably just gonna go a little bit heavier duty now. I'm gonna just take it off the end of the tape roll and just spin it. And this is basically just gonna help ensure that it doesn't separate as I'm pushing through the frame of the airplane. Okay, you could use a wire, you could use just about anything you want. In my case, this is just what we have lying around. It's really easy to get to. And that should be enough to get us, yeah, I'm pulling pretty good on that. Okay, so now what do we need to feed up? We need to feed this whole assembly but we can disconnect this JST, which is real nice. So then all we have to do is feed this length of wire back to where it belongs up front, and then we can reattach all that jazz. So the easiest way I found to do this is if you kind of put that between your two cables, you see how I'm kind of laying it flat? So it doesn't make the connector any larger than it already is. The JST connector is already kind of large, okay? So I'm just gonna squish that in there. And in this case, I'm just gonna kind of do the same thing I did, which was to stick down the tape and then just kind of spin it around a little bit. And just make sure that keeps everything in position, and then I can separate it, leaving a small tab so we don't have as much frustration as the e-flite connectors for the motor, okay? So now this thing I can unspin, and there you have it. So it just wiggles around out here, but once you're in that channel, it should be real easy to feed through. So I show you guys this process not because it's exceptionally difficult to figure out, but just more or less to show you that it's not that big a deal. Sometimes these tasks always seem worse when you kind of think about all the steps involved. See, I'm gonna have a hard time doing that, aren't I? I'm gonna have to feed this back out the hole at the tailpipe. See that?
Yep.
Then I can lay this kind of on the belly of the beast.
Okay.
And then I can take and kind of ram and cram this down this hole. Okay, so I'm just gonna use this finger to guide it. Okay, now I'm going to use the other, oops, just got to guide it. Kind of having a hard time with this one, aren't I? Okay, I'm having a real hard time with that today. I think I might try one other thing. This is just another trick. If you're having trouble getting it to guide through, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually take a new one of these just to make it a little bit easier still. I'm gonna feed this down the same opening that we need to go through. Okay, this is just a trick of the day, guys. Okay, I'm gonna put that down there. And now I can take and tape this whole assembly together, and that keeps everything in alignment. Okay, and you'll notice the way that I assembled this is actually the more important thing. That's the more helpful part, so much than the actual, just the fact that you're putting on some long flexible piece. It's not exactly rocket science, but you know, you feed enough wires through weird spots, and I do a lot of that at work too. You know, one off, you got to run this one wire one time, and you'll never do it again until the next time. Okay, so that, and then I'm just gonna go a little bit more tape over the face of that connector just to kind of give it a little something to, it'll be a little less likely to get caught up on every single object that it encounters. Okay, so you see that? Now I've got that ready to go. We're just gonna slide that back into the hole and use that as our guide, and I can just kind of spin it now. Now these wires I don't want to go back in. I'm gonna hold those out of the way. My apologies in advance. I know I'm going to block your view to a certain extent. That's just kind of the way it goes. Okay. All right, so here we go. Here goes nothing. So now I just gotta make this go through with all these big wires and try not to completely block your view. I'm sure my camera crew is doing her best. Okay. Oh, there it goes. Now I got to go around the other side and just double check that I'm not coming out yet, which I'm not. And that's just so that I don't end up getting caught in the foam and stabbing like really hard into the foam. Okay, so it's going without too much trouble, actually. I can tell it's going to make it out pretty easy. Oh, just got poked. Okay, so I feel stuff moving, but I'm not sure what I'm feeling. So I'm gonna look under here. Yep, there it is. See, guys? There it is.
Oh, yep, it's it.
Okay. Cool, so that was pretty easy. So now I just gotta grab that thing. If I can find it again. There it is. So now I'm getting to the point where I'm running out of slack. So I can just pull this through the rest of the way. Right, like that. And now I need to reattach my wires. And this is the time where you would maybe throw a zip tie around here. I don't really see that as being a big issue one way or the other. If you decide you want the zip tie, go for it. I don't really know if we need the zip tie or not. I'm not real sure I want to put another zip tie in this equation, but I'm sure it's probably supposed to go there. So why don't we just put a zip tie on it? I think the zip tie would help hold the wires back too. But again, it's kind of a not 100% clear thing. Okay, so we'll tighten this. Now I need to get some side cutters. The side cutters are not just to cut it, it's actually so I can torque down on it a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna take and turn it while biting and turn it while biting. Whoops, sorry camera crew.
That's all right.
It's kind of a premature shoot.
I wasn't quite prepared yet.
Yeah, sometimes it happens early.
That's all right.
Means you did your job.
I'm trying.
So we've got the tape here. And then these other two, we were able to kind of keep them intact. And they annoyed me just enough that I'm just going to eliminate them because they really ticked me off earlier. So I'm just taking them off. And to be perfectly honest, guys, what are the conditions that you would be in that the EDF being allowed to pull out far enough that these wires can come undone? I just don't, the circumstances where the EDF is out like 4 inches from the opening, but you still need it to run are kind of beyond me. Because usually when it's like 4 inches out of the hole, it's pretty much done.
Yeah.
It's pretty much, you're pretty much crashed. It's pretty much in like flames by then. So not really sure that that's necessary. Now I'm gonna see if I can even slip this in here too. That's gonna be a real bear cat because this thing is super long now. I mean, if you play with it long enough, it's gonna get bigger.
What happens?
Yeah, I'm gonna go get forceps. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, so these are forceps or hemostats. The bent tips are better, but we're probably gonna have to use both. So the way the hemostat works is you can click these down and they'll hold for you. So I'm grabbing the 1/2 and I can click down and get a bite, and then the other half I can manipulate sort of with the EDF. Then I can grab the other hemostat, get the other ones out of the red one's in the way now, of course. Would you hold that, camera crew?
Yeah.
Can you film in? Hold.
No, I'll try.
Okay, down we go. You got to get it in there. Okay, there, got the yellow one in. So once the first one's in there, it gets a little bit easier, sort of, but not really. Then the black one, it's got some tape still on it. So I'm gonna clamp the hemostat and just spin. See, and then that takes out that little piece of fiber that was on there still.
Need to hold again?
Yeah, hold that right there. Right there, please. Thank you. This is really fun to film, and oh, I need the red one, remember?
Yep.
So if you get this wrong, it's no big deal, except you got to tear it all apart again. You just got to flip 2 of the wires, any 2 wires, doesn't matter which ones. Okay, then this last one, you're fine, you're fine. You just resist moving and I'll kind of move around you, camera crew.
Okay.
Okay, so they're all in there now. And like I suggested earlier, we don't probably need any tape at all because that's just a humongous overkill for us. So I'm not gonna put any more tape on there. I'm just gonna slide these wires down, and then I'm gonna do good old reach around here and just grab our wire. Now show them what's happening back here. That's where they're gonna see. Just pulling that snug.
Yep. I see.
And then I'm gonna walk this down into the hole. Oh yeah!
Cool.
Now I gotta try to get it to walk into position and make sure that I'm not collapsing the wires in a weird spot. I'm sitting on top of 2 of those drum connectors at the same spot, and so I can't get it to lay down. So I am going to use the hemostats to, you're blocking my light horrendously there, camera crew. I'm gonna grab this black wire and try to pull it toward me, which is gonna free up and allow it to go flat. Okay, I've got all 3 of them flat side by side now. Now I should be able to just like flop this in here. Should is the key. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now back to the reverse order steps. I'm just going to tighten in these 4 screws. If you're wondering what size this is a 2 millimeter, I believe, or 5/64. I don't know if it's magnetic tip or not. Hence I just dropped one. Okay. Let's see if we can get that to, oh yeah, it's dropping down nicely. I'm gonna use the tip of my finger to walk into this right there. Just giving it something to push against. Okay, got that nice and torqued down really tight. And then just using the tip of my finger to ride it until it gets to the hole so it doesn't fall off. All right, so tight we go. Just double checking my torque, 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 and torque. And some of the war wounds here from doing this. That's kind of annoying. But I'm not sure that it's completely avoidable either. We'll put this back on. Make sure everything sits down in place. Trust me, nobody's gonna be looking there when there's an afterburner going.
If you had a second set of hands that wasn't filming,
It'd be really
might
easy.
be able to have somebody hold that up a little bit more instead of putting it on the side.
You have to remember who's watching this. Just kidding.
Please don't make them feel bad.
Just kidding, guys. Okay, we're gonna flip this plane over. Gonna hit it from the other side. Okay. Actually, I'm wondering if maybe I'll just lay it down.
Which way?
This way. Okay, so got it down there. Now I can just untape things. Okay, so you guys probably recognize these from earlier. I made tails on every connection point, unlike the Horizon Hobby stuff that I had to make my own tails, frustratingly so. Yes, now I can pull this one out. So there we go, so that's ready for the next use. I did such a good job taping it, I'll probably just throw it away. And then this one here, where the heck did I end that thing? So we're gonna basically unpause it when we find it and get it all undone. Okay, so we've got this wire untaped. So for practical purposes, we just need to reland this cable here, the JST to JST. There's a little power switch here, on and off. There's on. This is gonna Y split off of the throttle channel. Throttle on this is way easier to unplug than on the last plane. So throttle is going to go here, just like that. And then the brown in this case goes down and away. Now you could assign this to a different channel if you had additional channels you wanted to use, and that would be fine. I think in this case, we're just gonna kind of leave it more or less where it is. Not sure how I wanna handle all the wires though. because there's nothing up here that's really too terribly critical. So it might not be a bad spot to kind of plop this stuff. Not sure yet. I think for now I'm just going to tape this up and along the side just to get it out of the way. So in order to tape it, I'm just going to use the clear tape because it's super easy. And this Velcro, I'm just going to stick it down so it gets out of the way. Kind of stays out of the way. Yeah, you could cut a channel and glue it and do all sorts of stuff if you wanted, but I'm not going to do all that. I'm just going to tape it down for now. Make sure I'm satisfied with the way it all lays down. Then this connection here, I want to try to flip it because that Y cable is like real short. And that would be a good place for a zip tie probably. Because it came with these zip ties, I'd like to use one of them here. So if you're ever trying to get around a tight spot like that, just take and crease your zip tie, and then you can slide it under and really get a good purchase. All those labels are fighting me. Okay, so we'll do that, and we'll slip this through. Okay, so we've got that tied. So that holds that in place and kind of resists the temptation to want to pop out all the time. So that one's pretty good. Then this thing just isn't sticking well. There's a lot of mold release on this foam. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate that tape. That's where the Gooniac tape might be kind of handy. But I'm just going to tape it the other direction to try to help resolve that issue, which is just a vertical tape joint like this. Okay. I'm just going to bring that along like this. Of course, you can eliminate a lot of this stuff too if you want, but I'm just going to leave it in there so you guys can see how it works. Throttle cut is on currently. I have the F-18 picked. We're going to use the battery that we would normally use. I just want to make sure we work out the logistics of all the wires. Getting the batteries in the jets is always a pain, or can be. Now remember, these afterburners don't do much of anything until my gear, it did this to me once before. Kind of annoying. It cycled the landing gear on me. This plane has got to have the worst connector out of every single plane I have in my whole fleet. I've had a lot of problems with it. And it's just really frustrating because if they had the new style EC5 connector, the IC5 rather, we would not have that. And you can just see the sparks going. And I hate that. I just know it's really hard on everything.
It's so short too.
That's what she said. Get in there. There it is. Woo-wee! Jeez. Okay, so now I can just slide that back to my approximate mark. I got to run the gear because one's half down. Okay, now they're all down. Sorry about that, guys. So now that we know that's going to fit in there okay, I can go ahead and pull up this doohickey, the receiver for the Velcro. I always like to dry fit this stuff before I get ready to fly to make sure that I'm not going to cause a problem. Because the first thing that's going to happen when we have a flying opportunity is we're going to fly this thing. Of course, it's dark now, unfortunately, because I was replying to comments. All right, so here we go. So now you plug in the balance charge port to receive the power for the ESC over here. Now, of course, there's an on-off switch on this. On-off, okay. And then this thing, I really just want it to be kind of out of the way, but I don't want to interfere with the antennas at all because I don't want any chance of having a problem because of that. That's probably a pretty good spot there. So I'll see if I can tape it down. I don't know if the tape is going to be sufficient or not.
You have canopy room.
Ah, that's a good point, camera crew. Because the canopy goes in here.
Yeah, how far down does it go?
That's a good question. So we may have to plop that back here, which should be fine. That's a great question though. I'm glad you mentioned that when you did, because I wasn't thinking about the canopy dropping down in there.
If that worked, you could zip tie your little bundle.
The little bundle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can zip tie everything but this, you know. And you can run a separate pack for this too. If you want to run a separate, what is that, a 4S pack? 1, 2, 3, 3S pack. So a separate 3S pack would run it, but I kind of like seeing it because what'll happen is you'll actually lose some of your power when you're getting close to running out of your battery. Of course, you can tell from the telemetry as well if you're using telemetry when you get low.
It'd be challenging to get another pack in there.
What do you mean?
It'd be hard to get another pack in there.
Well, it doesn't have to be a big pack, not like that. You could just use like a little 3S pack that's got a JST connector on it. I could show you. Some people prefer to run their lights on a separate battery circuit anyway, but I don't ever get into that. This wire is supposed to be cut, by the way. That's not a mistake or anything, folks. That wire would actually, that's the BEC lead, so the battery eliminator circuit. So that's what would feed another receiver if this was your primary ESC, okay? And the servos and things like this, okay? So let's see if we can, now that we've got that kind of zip tied together, let's see if we can just plop it down there. See, we're plenty good for where we're located. I don't think any of the batteries are ever gonna be up here. So that should be totally fine. Try canopy. Oh, you know what we're hitting? We're hitting that.
That one.
Not the Gooniac connector. Let's drop that down like that. Now let's try. Oh yeah, we're in it to win it. Okay, so we'll reset and come right back. All right, guys, so throttle cuts off. Is it on yet?
Not yet. I think you turned it off when you were messing with it. Check your switch.
Did I do that?
Is it off? Because you were talking about it. You were talking about it, and then I think you turned it off.
I turned the switch off, guys.
Yep.
My apologies. That would have been annoying if we filmed the video and that's the way it went. Okay, here we go. Oh, throttle cuts on, throttle cuts off.
Now you're just screwing with me.
I know, I'm just torturing her, which is pretty awesome. I want to see it. Okay, so I don't know if we can taxi this out in the dark. Why don't we try a dark taxi? Let's do that.
Okay.
Or, well, it's so cold.
I know.
Let's just taxi in our living room with the lights off. How about that?
Okay, we'll pause.
Yep. All right, guys, so we're gonna try pointing the camera down the inlet side, and then we'll show you. We shut off some of the lights, but not everything. Oh, that's awesome! Okay, it shuts off. seems to be turning on about 50%. You want to shoot down the inlets. Do you know where the inlets are? They're on the bottom.
Go down here?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. I'm not holding on.
Okay, so can you see it from the front?
Yeah, the only time you can see it from here is like the little teeny back.
Yeah, but can you see it from the front?
Yeah.
That's not a desirable thing.
No, I know. I'm saying you can't see it like at all.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so we'll show you from the back, guys.
Yeah.
So this is what it's gonna look like. Obviously, we're gonna fly this thing for you. It's very obvious, but. Here's about 50% throttle. And then of course it drops off. So it's.
No one's gonna be able to hear you, by the way.
No, that's okay. Well, I've got a mic up here too.
That's true.
So I think it's gonna look really spectacular.
Yeah.
Now let's show them from the top. Let's show them from the top and the bottom so they can see how much it doesn't. We'll go ahead and do it with the gear open and the gear closed, okay? So this gear open, good habits. So, as you can see, the opaque finish on this model really does block it out nicely.
Yeah,
and then the shape and tone of those tailpipes really does work good for this. So I'm super excited to see it fly. I mean, it's gonna be hard not to be flying in night nowadays. So I'm gonna do this again from the top. A little bit of glow. Just that one little yellow spot where it points.
That's it.
So I would say that's pretty awesome. I can't wait to see this thing fly. It's gonna be something else. I don't know if dark is really ever gonna happen with this plane, just because these two little LEDs plus this plane is kind of challenging to fly as it is. I definitely don't see this thing flying in pitch dark, but I gotta see it from the front, I'm sorry. Well, you can see it from the front.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be able to see it from the front. I mean, technically you would be able to see a little bit of burning in there, I suppose, but that's
You wouldn't normally see it from the front?
No, not on a real jet engine, because that's the inlet side, there's a compressor, and then the outlet side, that's where it's spinning and burning the fuel. But it's okay. It's okay. It's still going to be cool. I think it's going to help with orientation a lot. But I also was nervous because we only have the one EDF in this model. And so being that there's only one EDF, I was concerned that we were going to get really kind of a bad look. And I saw one of my RC peers had done a dual LED circuit, and I thought that's cool, but it almost kind of feels like you're going to give up a little bit too much thrust because it's going to be blocking your throughput, physically blocking it. So in this case, I feel like you're giving up less. So, I mean, that's just conjecture because I haven't flown it this way yet. And yes, we are adding a little bit of aft CG, so that's not necessarily a bad thing on a jet, because generally you're kind of trying to push the CG back so you can get in there and flare landings. This is the first of any, well, with the exception of the de Havilland Vampire, which is late now and has been killed. But other than that plane, all the EDFs I've had have always been significant mods to try to get the CG where it needs to be. So very exciting, very cool. Okay, got to see it with flaps. Coming in for a landing. Why would you have afterburners on? Oh, because it's a carrier landing.
This is ridiculous.
I'm just torturing the camera crew
now.
now.
Oh my goodness.
This is so cool. Well, anyway, Gooniac, you guys have probably already seen the flight. I have not. She has not. We're really looking forward to the flight. Hopeful that it's going to be as amazing as every other flight. But I think in closing, we're going to just give you one more One more good Afterburner blow. Come back for more.
Are you done now?
I'm done. My camera crew couldn't hear. Come back for more. All right, guys, so I'm assuming if you're still watching now, you wanted to see the repairs from the really rough landing. I watched and rewatched the crash landing, whatever you want to call it. It was horrible. I can't believe this plane survived. I can't believe I was able to recover it, let alone land with this little damage. We got really lucky. So anyway, talk about a testament to some awesome landing gear. I mean, that was incredible. At first, when we were doing it live and in person, it's one of the benefits of doing a YouTube channel is you film all these flights and you get to dissect and watch over and over and over and over and over again, and you get to learn and listen to all sorts of strange squeals from me in person. It's very annoying to watch yourself make these obnoxious noises, but I'm sure you guys love it. Anyway, the point is we've let this thing dry off. We rinsed off some components. I'm going to show you one thing. Obviously, we had the nose break. This nose is removable, so you could just buy this thing, which I'm of course not going to do because I'm too cheap, and you know that's pretty ridiculous given our current circumstances. And then of course we broke the other missile. Now I'm actually not upset that I broke the missiles because breaking the missiles fixed other problems. Okay, so basically we sacrificially were able to protect the plane, which so far there's been 2 different times that the missile pods have helped to protect the plane. So at first I was really kind of down on them because it doesn't look scale enough, because they don't put missiles on these things, not the show planes like this. I mean, I'm sure they probably could, but they'd have to overhaul the plane, but they're not gonna put these planes in a battle. We've got enough planes for that. So anyway, you can see we lost a little bit of paint where the foam crushed. This should be a super easy repair. We're gonna start with the missile pod. All I have is just a couple of regular, just standard toothpicks. Don't even have to be super thick toothpicks. We have mucilage, which is like a Hobby King product. And then we also have foam to foam. So just depending on what your taste is, I think the mucilage beats out the foam to foam just a little bit. They're both good. You can get this at Horizon Hobby. You can get this at Hobby King. So this is obviously a little bit bigger tube, but they don't stay in stock. So if you want it, order it. And then of course you have to pay high shipping. I like this because if you buy this, you can buy it when you're getting a plane. And of course I lean toward Horizon stuff. I've got plenty of Hobby King stuff, but in this case, I just wanted to show you that they both work. Why don't we go ahead and we'll just kind of show you the difference. We'll fix the missile with the mucilage, and it strings up a little bit better. Now this is dried. We just rinsed it off with warm water and let it dry. We put out just a towel, yep. And we just kind of ran the landing gear back and forth. I did actually have to bend one piece. This piece here I repaired in the last video. I actually staked this with a piece of paper clip, and I took it all apart and I noticed that it was bent up 90 degrees. No big deal. I bent it back and now it's fine. And so everything is working. You can see a little bit of water still in the wheels. And then of course some schmutz here and there, but I can't believe we didn't damage like any of this stuff. I just can't believe it. This plane has some of the best landing gear I've ever seen on a foamy. And I've seen a lot of foamies. Now I haven't seen all of them, and I haven't seen a ton of the high performance jets, but anyway, I just wanted to talk about that. So mucilage, the way this stuff works is it's like a contact cement or like a rubber cement, but it's foam safe. So I usually start by just getting a little bit on both sides. In this case, I went a little bit thick. If you're trying to be careful to make it clean, what I'll do is I'll spread it so that it kind of poops all the way to the edge. That's a technical terminology, pooping. So what you'll do is you'll get that tacked up like that. And if you don't want to sniff it, but if you smell and it doesn't smell strong, then you know it's like worn out and it'll be hard to get out of the tube. So don't go around huffing glue, but you want to at least know that it's going to work. Okay, so now there's barely any left on here. You see how stringy it is? So you do that about 20, 30 times and it will actually rip the foam out. It's crazy how strong it is. So anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and apply this to both sides. So we'll just do a kind of a liberal blob like that. And then I'm gonna use the clean side this time. Otherwise the drier stuff will kind of pull it away. And see, I'm just dabbing it and just kind of rolling it up to the edge. That's all I do. In some of these videos, guys, you know, these repairs are so simple, but everybody always asks about it. So I guess if you ask enough times, maybe I'll do it. So, and it depends on what you ask, of course. So I'm just gonna stab this in here. And you're like, but you didn't put any glue on that. You're right, not yet, I will. Okay, so I've got that through. So now I'm gonna pull that out and it's come out pretty clean. Probably could have done that first. It doesn't really matter. So you can just keep filming that for a sec. What I'm gonna do is I'll be a little bit careful this time. Last time I used a blue and it came out in the seam. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna just take and mark the tip of this because I barely want any of this to transpose onto the markings. So you see this? I'm just getting a little bit of that black stuff on there. And then I'm just gonna stick them together, okay? And you wouldn't have to reinforce it, but it's kind of incredible how much you can get to transfer. I didn't get a very good transfer on that time. So also I'm gonna steal a little bit of this glue because it's really setting up. You can let it cook is what I call it, where the glue actually activates a little bit. See, that's pushed in there now. I'd like to use 2, and what I'm looking for is perpendicular and then perpendicular, okay? So I'm just gonna find the center-ish point, and I'm just gonna stuff that in there, and then I'm just gonna check my angles. So you can see I've got nice straight lines. They don't have to be absolutely perfect, but the more perfect you can get them, of course, the better they're gonna work. And you're like, well, if you pull that out, it's gonna be like loose. Yeah, to a degree, but you wanna be able to get a little bit of glue in there. Okay, so I'm just gonna work this like that, you see? There's just that bead there. So now I can just take and share that here. And if you really wanna make it work good, you can just kind of walk it around. You see, you could let go and it'll hold on. That's how you know you got enough on there, okay? Then while it's still a little bit wet, you'll kind of work it in there, and you see it'll almost pull it down into the joint, okay? And this will actually be quite a bit stronger than it was before, so you'll get just a little bit more resilience. And of course, we'll just do a little bit more, and you see it gets super stringy. Okay, so now is where you gotta be just spot on with your penetration. You gotta be good with your penetration. So I am just going to go ahead and attempt to hit the same spots. And normally I don't do it like that, I just mark it. But you can see I got pretty lucky. It's close, super close, you see? Super, super close. And now you can just manipulate that until you get it to where it appears to be straight. You're like, but Brian, that looks like crap. I know, trust me. So now I'm gonna take this that has wet glue on it. And when I say wet, I mean tacky, and I'm gonna roll it on the edge, and I'm gonna pull up any excess mucilage and loose paint. Not every little bit of paint. You see, we got a little bit of a bend here, so you can actually correct that right now. But I just want the stuff that's gonna come off super easy. See that? And then you just spin it. It just pulls it right out of the joint, okay? And then you can take and do this. It's just, working with foam is super easy. And this is gonna be a little bit heavier than it was before, but it's gonna be quite a bit more strong, okay? And if you're really wanting to fly this like right now, like this thing, you can pull it apart, but you see how hard I was pulling? I'm basically crushing the foam. So why do you keep walking away from me?
Because I'm
Come
trying
back up
to
here.
see what you're
See
doing.
this? So I'm pushing it together. So now pulling it apart like that is gonna give you an even tighter joint, okay? And then you can just roll and it'll pull that right out again. And you see, now you basically end up with a ready to fly sort of deal. And I'm pulling out of those little cracks and just make sure everything's straight, and then you're ready to rock and roll. Now, I'm not gonna super worry about, you know, if I ended up wanting to fly this right now, you could go fly, but I'm just gonna throw one single piece of tape. I don't like this little grooved edge that you get from these cutters, so I always cut it clean. And then I'll cut it clean so it's very hard to see on camera, of course. That's just regular Scotch tape. Get the clearest stuff that's thick that you can get. And I'm just gonna use another one of these to press that down into the joint and then walk it around. It's very simple stuff, guys. That's why sometimes I understand, you know, people want help as they're learning to do this, but it's just so simple. I almost feel like I'm insulting your intelligence by showing you that step. But if you're new to this, you might not know how to fix the foam. It's very easy. That's fixed, and it's going to be in, let's call it an hour, it's going to be stronger than it was before I crashed it. And I say that seriously, it will be stronger. It'll break somewhere else because we have it reinforced. So now you put that back on, you lock it in, and you're, oops, I missed one of my slots. So you just slide that in and you're done. So now your missile's on there. You could touch that paint up if you wanted to. I'm probably not going to touch up the paint because they seem to be the sacrificial lambs. So we're going to leave that. Now, let's talk about foam to foam. Foam to foam is a real similar product. Of course, it's easier to get. Now, this is a Chinese product. I believe this stuff is made in the UK.
Yeah.
So it actually has safety warnings on it, which is kind of nice. And if you're using it in a professional environment, you might actually have to have that. But this stuff here is a Horizon product, and this here is a Hobby King product. Just to show you that it does work. Now this stuff runs a little bit thinner. So when you use it, you don't even have to break tip, which surprised me. See how fast it comes out? It's already coming out. I got it all over my hands, dang it. So first thing we did was we cleaned off, sorry, I just got to get that little bit on there. And see, the thing that's nice about both of these products is if you get it on your fingers, just roll it up into a booger and you're done.
Just always over your wife's granite countertop.
Over the granite countertops are preferred, you know. So anyway, this stuff here, I'm just going to go, this is clearer. You'll notice it's quite a bit clearer and it's more running, okay? Also, this has an aluminized case or aluminum case. And because it's aluminum, it will crush. So you want to be careful to get your cap back on. Now, I feel like this stuff is going to probably run into a tighter spot better than the mucilage. The mucilage is quite a bit thicker. I would say the viscosity is double to triple the thickness of this, okay? Now, on this one, we're just gonna discard this and go to a fresh Q-tip. This is much clearer, and it smells, but it smells like almost, it doesn't smell as chemically. It smells different. Have you noticed that?
I can't.
But you see it's not near as stringy. You see the difference in viscosity there? It'll string up, but just to a much different degree, okay? It's not necessarily better or worse, it's just a different application. The other thing I find is that you don't get that immediate bite and hold that you get from the mucilage. I actually really like that about the mucilage because I do a lot of on-the-spot quick repairs. So I'm just gonna use up what's on this. And it also takes a little bit longer, you have longer working time with this product, okay? So if you're doing a big repair or like a strange joint, this one does give you a little bit more time to work. There are times that you'll try to stick a joint together and it's like set up before you even collapse the joint together. So I'm just gonna work this. This is the other half, of course. Trying to get this so you can see. I don't wanna do quite as much as I did on the other side. Now, you'll also notice that there's a little bit of crushing on the nose here. That's unfortunate, but true. And the nose is probably not going to end up lining up absolutely perfect, but I want to get it together in one piece before I correct that. So you see what I'm doing? I'm just kind of just manipulating that into every little crevice. Now, you can let this stuff cook if you want, okay? You don't have to. See, it's on my fingertip. Not a big deal. It's not like CA. You just roll it up in a booger and put it on your wife's countertop. See, it smells weird. It's just, it's not the same as the mucilage, which you would think it's almost exactly the same product, but it's not. So both are flammable, be careful. This is supposed to be a foam safe product. One thing I've noticed about this is it almost seems to, and don't hold me to this, but it feels like it's taking down the sharp edges of the foam, which means it's probably a little bit reactive. But look how nice this sticks though. See, I did those two. This is the one thing I'm not as crazy about. Look at it come out. See it squeeze out? Same thing happens with mucilage, but it just seems to come out a little bit easier because it's more running, okay? Mm-hmm. See, I'm pushing it really hard because I want to take that stuff out, okay? So now let's walk around and just pull it out. Now, you're going to go through more Q-tips with this stuff too because the viscosity is so much lower. Now, you can also wait longer, and if you wait longer, then it will tack up even more, okay? So I'm actually just gonna sacrifice that one there. And you see, it's a little bit harder to get that joint clear, but it's clear. The mucilage is kind of almost have that yellowish hue to it. So you may not actually want to use that yellowish hue. You see how it's starting to tack up and it's pulling off those little pieces of flaky paint. So I'm just going to kind of come into this here a little bit and just walk it back and forth. You can see it really is tacky. It's getting to the point where it's tacky. Usually when it starts peeling off the paint, that's when you know you're really tacking up good. And I'll just roll kind of both ways like that and just let it pick it off. And then you end up with a clean outside edge, and some more is gonna kind of poop out over time. You see what's happening there? Now you end up with this clean, smooth edge, and there's no glue coming off. So get this done first, and then when you come back to actually straighten the tip, because you can see that tip has kind of got like a down angle, and it needs to be, oops. See, it's pointed down just a hair. It needs to come up just a little bit, okay? So you could try to use the glue to make up that gap, but you're never gonna find success getting it to stay that way, especially if you land it like I landed this plane. But I'll show you what I'll do to fix that here in just a second after this stuff starts to really set. You see how it's pulling the blue off? It's actually not a big problem because this blue is gonna come off anyway. Any of that stuff that gets knocked up like that, see that? You're pretty much gonna have to mark it with a marker or with paint. So it's almost better to just let it come off of there. See that little gap there? That one's gonna be a nasty one to fill. And once you get a tacky end on your Q-tip, you can really get some work done with it. Okay. So just going back and forth until there's not really much residue left. And you can see we've picked up quite a bit of glue. Okay, so here we go. See, and it's taken off a little bit of that finish, but I don't really have a huge problem with that. I got a marker that actually does a pretty good job of touching up blue. And I've touched up and painted many times to try to match a blue like the Blue Angels blue. You would think it'd be super easy, but it never seems to match. Okay, so now that we have that glued, we can go ahead and cap this back up. It didn't give us any problems with dripping. Sometimes it does, so you'll want to make sure this doesn't sit on your wife's counter because you might get some on there. Okay, so you can see that's on there. And I'm not even gonna try to yank it out of there, but just to demonstrate, it's strong, but it's not anywhere near as strong as the mucilage. So now I'm gonna twist it and let those strings fall back down, and then I'm gonna stick it down there, and then I'm gonna pull it and twist it out, and you see the strings get a little bit smaller each time. It makes almost like a spider web effect. Come back over here. See how it's kind of making strings every time I do this? And you can smell that smell of the product release each time you do that. Okay, so that's gonna mix the air. It's gonna allow that chemical reaction to start happening quicker. And you'll be surprised, at a certain point you're gonna pull and it's just not gonna wanna go. With mucilage, it takes like maybe 1 to 2 pulls, and with this stuff it might take 10. So you have a lot more time to work, but look how nice and fine those are, and they're white or clear, which makes a big difference, okay? So now I'm gonna actually press, but I wanna try to crush it as little as possible, and I'm gonna straighten the nose as I do it, okay? Now, when I let go, it's gonna relax. Now look at that nose. It's not perfect, but we've got that nice contour that we were looking for, okay? So we've got the nice contour here. You got a little bit of a dent here, but that's okay. Nothing you're gonna notice in flight, that's for sure. And then you can go through and take off the little teeny bit of excess. Now on this, you'll also notice I didn't actually do any spikes. Now that was intentional because I have access to it from this side, which is kind of handy. So what I might do is, just to kind of reinforce everything, I'll go ahead and get into it like this and just stab through the front, okay? Like this. Or from the back side rather. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab some needle nose pliers Whoops. Those are side cutters. So needle nose pliers would work really nice for this because then you can reach down and actually put some pressure on it. And this is going to be hidden, so I'll show you the trick. So first things first, let's make sure we're not going to penetrate all the way through. Okay, so that should go down into the nose, okay? So I'm going to grab this and make sure I get a good grab on it. I'm going to push down carefully. Okay, so that'll just pin it in place so it can't spin on us, okay? So there's just a little bit that's sticking up the top there. Whoops, that's a magnet, see? So now I can grab this one out, pull it out. Now I'm gonna go ahead and cover this. I'll use the same product, the foam to foam. And we got all but like probably, I would say a 1/16 of an inch, maybe an 1/8 of an inch if that. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of this product on the shaft of this, okay? And then I'm gonna slide this back in and then I'll spin it as I go, okay? So that'll spread the product as we go in, okay? So this is just gonna reinforce the tip as I go, okay? Now I don't wanna get stuff all over the tip of my tool, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So now at this point, you see I wanted to push the tip off. Now I'm just pushing it down until it goes into the foam, okay? So that's gonna pin it. So now at this point, I'm gonna grab a paper towel. We'll be right back. Okay, so we're just gonna take that little teeny bit of extra there, which is just barely anything. And then I'm gonna take this thing and we're gonna do that exactly the same again, one here, okay? This time I'm gonna try to follow a different contour. And if you pin it twice, it's gonna stay really well. Just putting it in dry. And then we can pull it out and put the glue on it. So obviously the best thing you can do is not crash. But you can also, you know, like this part would be an easy one to order if you wanted to order it. I just am not a big fan of ordering replacement parts. I never have been. I like fixing this stuff myself. Okay, so I pushed in just past the finish. Okay, see that string? Try to get that onto your towel, touch up, whatever it is. And that stuff, it will come off of your fingertips just fine. So then I'll just wipe up the little teeny bit of excess so that it doesn't stick onto the plane. Okay, so as you can see, we've got that pretty much. I don't want to say it's better than new because obviously it looks worse than new because of the color. But in terms of shape, in terms of function, in terms of the scale lines, which is what I'm most concerned with, it's going to be okay now. And that was you know, it would have taken me 3.5 minutes if I wasn't doing it on a video because I would just do it. So now I'm going to run down and I'll grab the marker and we can touch this up in about 2 minutes when this stuff sets up because the color will be different where there's glue. Oh, one more thing before we continue. I want to show you one other trick. This is not necessarily the end all cure all, but I'm just going to show you. This is going to peel off a lot of that unused. See that? Pulls it off. You can just use a little bit of tape. And if you're trying to get down to just the base, it usually works pretty good because there's nothing worse than sitting there trying to touch up and having the paint come off every 5 seconds. It's annoying. Okay. And yes, you can go and get this paint matched at, you know, Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, but I don't want to have 400 colors sitting in my basement. I've already got like 400 airplanes down there. Mm-hmm. So I will be back with my marker and then you can see how satisfactory it looks when we're done. Okay, so we plugged the battery in off camera just because it's kind of a pain to plug in the battery. Obviously this thing is done. It's ready to go back on the plane. And of course it could go back on the plane. From this side, it actually looks pretty good. But then over here, we've got the bigger void of color. So it's been setting up for what, like 10 minutes maybe? So I found this marker works super good. I don't even know, Sanford, Mark type.
Like super old.
It's super, I don't even know where we got it, but it just happens to work and blend really nice. I don't know why, but it just seems to hide damage on blue planes. And it's so weird because if you look at it, it doesn't even look like it's matching that good, but watch this. Okay, so once you're kind of done with the color, I think it just eats the paint just enough that it'll blend the paint a little bit. And you can keep laying color down, which is just so weird that it works so well. Of course, it's not going to work very good now that we're doing this on camera. But you can see from a distance that's going to blend in pretty good. It's not perfect. Obviously, paint would be better. But what I can do is I can go along the edge like this, and then you almost like pick up the paint, and it just walks it over. And then it gets down into the grooves. And that's really pretty good touch up given the fact that I spent 30 seconds on it. And then of course I could go get touch up paint later and paint that all. See, it's not perfect, but it's a pretty good close match for just being a touch up marker. And then the longer you mark it, the more colorant you get out on there. And it just eventually kind of gets darker. You see how dark it's getting now? Now, one word of warning if you decide to do this is that this stuff does like to kind of come off of there over time, in that the colorant will wipe off on your fingers, especially when you first do this. Okay, see how nice that's starting to get dark, 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 dark. And I have tried doing all sorts of different colors, especially on this Blue Angels blue. I've had other planes that are Blue Angels blue. What was the other Blue Angels blue that I had?
I don't know. I was trying to think of that earlier.
I know I did have one.
We fought a pink
Well,
color.
gray's really hard to match because they're always like super similar but so far apart. Okay. So now from the 10-foot test, you know, you're going to be able to tell there's damage if you're really searching for it. But when it's going 80 miles an hour next to you, you're not going to know any better.
Nope.
And to be honest with you, the wear and tear items on a plane, you kind of figure out at some point, no matter how beautiful a plane is, you tend to have a little damage like that here and there. I mean, you've got this beautiful Boeing 737-900 or Dash 9. And I mean, I've even got damage on that. It's brand new because we hit a weed when we were taking off on our maiden. Okay, so now that we have established all the different pieces, we've got good lines on the nose, just a little teeny tiny bit of misalignment on there. So if I lift up on that, it'll take care of that. I am going to go ahead and test the landing gear. Obviously the elevator's working. The rudder and steerable nose gear are working. Flaps are working. Ailerons are working. Everything is working together. It's always a good idea to test that because if you overload a servo and you cause it to reset the receiver, you're going to want to find that out on the ground. Okay, so as everything is working, if you don't have any problems, of course, we're not into the throttle either. So the BEC circuit is what runs that, not the power circuit for the EDF. Okay, so throttle cut is on, by the way. I don't even have the Afterburner hooked up, guys. That was the whole point of this video. So again, not trying to demonstrate how to fix things, but this just happens to be the video. So little piece of grass I missed earlier. Let's just show them how robust this landing gear is, okay? Whew, hope it works now. That is freaking awesome. Guys, I can't believe how good that works. Do you want to flip the switch there, camera crew, so they can get like a super good view? It's the, yeah.
This one, towards you?
No. The other side. Go to the A switch. Other side of the.
I don't know. I used to know.
So it's definitely working. Everything is free. I thought for sure we were rubbing the edge, but I think we actually did that before. Mm-hmm. So everything is working. Everything is spinning free. I don't even think we have a misalignment here.
And it didn't damage like a gear door or anything.
No, that is just, we got really kind of lucky. Yeah. But also that's part of the reason why I'm going through the process of fixing this with you, because it's not that hard to fix. And that was a horrible landing. I think the snow might have helped us a little bit because it lubricated the tip before we stuffed it in the ground.
Maybe.
I don't know. I think so. I like it. This plane is beautiful. It's one of my favorites. It's definitely gorgeous. The complaints about them being underpowered, I don't know that that's necessarily a completely untrue thing. I think that it could use a little bit more power. That will come with a higher CPAC. So if your predisposition is high-speed passes and quick recovery when doing crazy maneuvers, get the highest CPAC you can get. Today we were flying it on the Spectrum 4000 6S 50C. They're offering 100 CPACs, guys. They're expensive. But the thing is, this plane could really use the extra Cs, I think. Gooniac, great job on the Afterburner. Everything seems to work great on that, except for they did not improve my landing skills at all. And I hope that you guys enjoyed watching me repair this. To me, it just seems a little bit second nature, but I've repaired so many crashes, numerous crashes. And for those of you that are just getting into the hobby and you're thinking, you know what, that wasn't that hard, I could totally do that. You're exactly right. You can totally do that. And when you come to Brian Phillips RC on YouTube, we're here to help you along the way. If you're getting back into the hobby, we will help you along the way. What we ask from you is come watch the videos, like them if you enjoy them, subscribe if you want to get more, and then check the link in the descriptions. If you're going to buy this beauty, buy it from our links, and you do help to financially support the channel. So we really appreciate you looking at that. Or if you're going to buy a new battery, I mean, these things are pretty expensive. Buying a new battery, follow the link. We've got generic links to the Horizon Hobby website, even Hobby King. We just don't do a lot of business with Hobby King. And then Banggood. And obviously we work with a few other vendors out there here and there on hobbies. We've had really good luck working with people on radio controlled airplanes. This came from XPR, which is a Chinese-based company. They actually got the molds from Supreme Hobbies when Supreme Hobbies went kaput. So we've been really fortunate in this endeavor. And my camera crew has been very fortunate that I have worked out some deals with some of these people, or we'd be a lot more poor than we actually are, because we have a lot of airplanes, and I would probably have them anyway. So without further ado, check Gooniac's website, buy the Afterburner. It's awesome. The FireBooty LED Afterburner. They're cool. He's got them for almost any EDF right now that's on the market. I think you just reach out to him, let him know what you're going to be putting it in. And then the leads will be made to length. Just a quick rehash. If you didn't pay attention to the installation, this is a nice little bundle we have. It's very simple. It's very neat. There's a power switch. You can eliminate some of that if you don't want it. Super easy. Gets out of the way nicely so that when you're pulling in and out your large batteries, it's actually no problem. So definitely cool. Definitely want to see another one. Maybe if we do another jet in the near future, we can have him send us some FireBooties for those too. If you guys have questions, leave them in the comments below. We try to get around to them. In a bad case, we might be 2 or 3 weeks getting to you, but we try to stay within a couple of days. So if you have a really pressing technical issue, there's thousands of other subscribers that might chime in and answer your question for you. But of course, you won't wait for my answer. Thanks for watching, guys. This F-18 is awesome, and the FireBooty is awesome too. Buy them, help support the people that support us. Come back for more.